Hello everybody, this is Mr. Laubach. In this video, we are going to explore the defining moments and concepts that shaped the United States. We are diving into the late 1700s, a crucial period for the formation of American identity. This time period is often called the early republic in our nation's history. Think period 3 of the APUSH curriculum, which lasts from 1754, the beginning of the French and Indian War, up until 1800, which is when Thomas Jefferson won the presidency in what was called the Revolution of 1800. While you are watching this, please take time to think of additional examples to the ones that I provide. So think people, places, phenomenons, trends, laws, themes, those types of things. Feel free to think of examples that could be connected with American identity during this time period that may have happened earlier or after the late 1700s. So first, let's start off with what is American identity? American identity refers to the collective characteristics, values, beliefs, and cultural norms that define and distinguish people of the United States. It encompasses a sense of belonging to the nation and identification with its historical, social, and political traditions. So what are the basics? How did the concept of American identity begin to take shape in the late 1700s? The late 1700s were pivotal for American identity, primarily due to the American Revolution and the subsequent formation of the United States. Before the Revolution, colonists primarily identified themselves by their colony or as British subjects or citizens. However, the shared struggle for independence fostered a sense of unity and common purpose. The Declaration of Independence in 1776 was a critical document, not only because it declared the colonies independent from Britain, but also because it articulated a set of values: liberty, equality, and self-governance that would become central to the American identity. The Declaration of Independence certainly set the stage. How did the Revolutionary War itself contribute to this emerging American identity? The Revolutionary War was a transformative period that fostered a collective American identity through shared sacrifice and struggle. Soldiers and civilians alike participated in the war effort, creating a sense of camaraderie and common destiny. The experience of fighting against a common enemy, the British, and the hardships endured, whether on the battlefield or at home, helped forge a sense of national identity. Additionally, the war created heroes and symbols, such as George Washington, who embodied the ideals of the new nation. After the war, the new nation faced the challenge of creating a government. How did the process of drafting and ratifying the Constitution shape American identity? The drafting and ratification of the Constitution were crucial in defining American identity. The Articles of Confederation, which think of it as the first Constitution, were put in place during the war. They proved to be ineffective in uniting the states and managing national issues. Now, there were positives to it, but there were a lot of flaws in the Articles of Confederation. The big one being that there was not a strong central government. The Constitutional Convention in 1787 sought to fix the Articles of Confederation, but ultimately scrapped it, and the new Constitution was created. It addressed these problems and resulted in a new framework for government. The debates and compromises made during this period, such as the Great Compromise or Connecticut Compromise, and the inclusion of the Bill of Rights later, reflected a balance between federal and state interest and sought to protect individual liberties. This process underscored the values of democracy, rule of law, and a commitment to a government that derives its power from the consent of the governed. Speaking of values, what were some of the key philosophical and ideological influences on American identity during this period? The Enlightenment had a profound impact on the ideological foundation of American identity. Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke advocated for natural rights, separation of power, and social contracts. The United States Constitution is an example of a social contract, a contract between the citizens and the government. All ideas that influenced American political thought. The belief in individual rights and the notion that government should be by the people and for the people were central to the new American identity. Additionally, republicanism, which emphasized civic virtue and public good, was a guiding principle for the new nation. The late 1700s also saw the beginning of American cultural expression. How did literature, art, and other cultural forms contribute to the emerging national identity? Cultural expressions in the late 1700s played a significant role in shaping American identity. Writers like Thomas Paine, with works such as Common Sense, began to develop a distinctly American voice. In art, figures like John Trumbull and Charles Willson Peale created iconic images of Revolutionary War heroes and events, fostering a sense of national pride. Additionally, the establishment of institutions like schools and newspapers helped to disseminate American ideals and create a shared cultural experience. What about the role of different groups in shaping American identity? How did the perspective of women, African Americans, and Native Americans influence or reflect this emerging identity? This time period was complex in terms of identity formation for different groups. Women like Abigail Adams and Mercy Otis Warren played crucial roles in advocating for women's rights and participation in the new republic, though full equality was far from achieved. African Americans, both enslaved and free, contributed to the Revolutionary War cause and began to articulate their own claims to promises of liberty and equality, as seen in the writings of figures like Phyllis Wheatley and Petitions for Freedom by Enslaved People. And think of the early origins in the nation's history of the abolition movement. Native Americans faced significant challenges, as American expansion often meant displacement and conflict. Their experiences and resistance highlighted the contradictions within American ideals of liberty and justice. The late 1700s were a time of both great promise and significant contradictions. What lasting impacts did this period have on American identity? This time period set the foundational ideals and structures that would continue to shape American identity. The principles of democracy, individual rights, and federalism established during this period became central to American political culture. However, the contradictions, such as those regarding slavery, the treatment of Native Americans, and limited role of women in society, also set the stage for future struggles and reforms. The period's legacy is one of both inspiration and ongoing challenges. As we close, the late 1700s highlight the dynamic and evolving nature of American identity. The ideals articulated during the Revolution and in the Constitution continue to inspire, while the period's unresolved issues remind us of the work still needed to fully realize these ideals for everyone. Understanding this era helps us to appreciate the complexity and potential of American identity. So I hope you learned something about American identity in the late 1700s or the early Republic period. I hope that you were also able to brainstorm on some other examples that we've talked about in class that would correspond with these questions. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day.